Hi everyone, welcome back to DGMZ Diwan-e-ghalib-meri-zubaani. To all our returning viewers, we are so happy you could join us again. And for the new viewers, we are delighted you discovered the podcast and decided to tune in for the first time. Now today's episode is part of the DGMZ Miniseries that we are currently running, dedicated to the immortal love story of Layla-e-Majnun. As part of this mini-series, we are discovering this story. Number one, via narration from a book, and then also in addition through paintings and Urdu shairi. So, today's episode is going to pick up the narration from chapter 46 onwards. But before we get into the narration, DGMZ would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate Suluk Press Publishing House for allowing us to narrate this story from their publication titled The Story of Layla-e-Majnun Nizami, translated from the Persian and edited by Rudolph Gelpke. English version in collaboration with E. Matin and G. Hill. Final chapter translated from the Persian by Pirzia Inayat Khan and Omid Safi. Now, the description section of this episode will have a link to this book for viewers who want to own a copy. In addition, we will also post links to the DGMZ Ghazal episodes where Ghalib mentions Layla-e-Majnun, which in fact is the inspiration behind this entire mini-series. So, let's get into the narration for today. Start of narration. The Story of Layla-e-Majnun, Chapter 46. Majnun recites his poems to Layla. And who am I, so far from you, yet near? A singing beggar, Layla, do you hear? Freed from life's drudgery, my loneliness, sorrow and grief for me spell happiness. And thirsty in the pain stream of delight, I drown. Child of the sun, I starve at night. Though parted, our two loving souls combine, for mine is all your own, and yours is mine. Two riddles to the world we represent. One answer each the other's deep lament. But if our parting severs us in two, one radiant light envelops me and you. As from another world, though blocked and barred, what there is one, down here is forced apart. Yet, if despairing bodies separate, souls freely wander and communicate. I'll live forever. Mortal fear, decay, and death himself have ceased to hold their sway. Sharing your life in all eternity, I live if only you remain with me. Layla listened while Majnun recited other poems. Suddenly, he fell silent, jumped up, and fled from the garden into the desert like a shadow. Though drunk with the scent of wine, he still knew that we may taste it only in paradise. The story of Layla and Majnun, chapter 47, the youth from Baghdad. By that time, the caravans had brought Majnun's poems from the desert to the alleyways and bazaars of the towns. There lived a youth by the name of Salam in Baghdad, on the Tigris. He was not lacking in beauty and intelligence, but had tasted love's sorrow. Being very fond of poetry, he soon learned of Majnun and of his love songs for Layla. How miraculous! I must find this Majnun, the youth thought. I must see him and talk with him, for he also is unhappy in love and a famous poet. No sooner thought than done. The youth tied his possessions into a bundle, mounted a camel, and traveled to the country of the Bedouin. For a long time he roamed the desert, searching and asking, until at last he found Majnun, naked from head to foot. When Majnun saw Salam and realized that he must have come from afar, he forbade his beasts to attack. Then beckoned the youth to approach, greeted him kindly, and asked, "Where do you come from?" "I have reached journey's end," was the reply. "My home is Baghdad, and I have come for your sake into a strange land, to see your wondrous face and to hear your strange verses. As God has preserved my life, allow me to stay with you for a while. I want to be your slave, enlightened one, to kiss the dust under your feet and to submit to your rule. Every verse you recite, I will learn by heart. A vessel for your wine, a treasury for your jewels. Allow me to stay, to serve you, to listen to you. Look on me as one of your animals, guarding you faithfully, never leaving your side. What harm could one more do? A slave as young as I. Yet I am one of those crushed by the millstone of love. End of narration. Two very short chapters, and we will restrict the episode to both these chapters and not go beyond, simply because the previous chapter, chapter 46, is a poem from Majnu to Layla. And what great translation done by Rudolph Gelpke and Matten G. Hill. They have preserved the essence of this beautiful poem. It's a love story in itself. I'm not going to read it out again. If you want to, you can always rewind and listen to it one more time. But the poem just shows the caliber of Majnu as a poet, right? Because वो आपने you must have heard that um, that idiom that love kind of makes a poet out of everyone. But that is not what's happening here. This is not somebody just turning to poetry and sher o shairi because they have suffered in love, right? This is an actual poet. This is a poet with actual caliber of poetry, and of course the love fuels that talent, um, exalts that talent, glorifies that talent even more, taking the poetry to a totally new level, because the poetry is actually coming from the heart. So the talent just is magnified. How Majnu, I mean, lines like "Child of the sun, I starve at night," right? Two riddles to the world we represent. I mean, these are such philosophical lines, right? Two riddles to the world we represent. I mean, the world considers us as two things that can never be fathomed, that can never be solved, by extension, that can never come together, coexist, right? And then this line, as from another world, though blocked and barred, what there is one, down here is forced apart. Things that are meant to unite in the heaven are forced by people to stay apart on this earth. Beautiful lines. And then, sharing your life in all eternity, I live, if only you remain with me. So already he has lived a life on earth without her, and he is ready to, I mean, pretty much give up his life in eternity if Lala is not to be with him. He only wants to live even the second life, which will be for eternity, only and only if Lala is with him. And then in the next chapter, chapter 47, right, this entry of a new character, this youth from Baghdad. Of course, we stopped where he is still requesting Majnu to allow him to stay. We'll see in the consecutive chapters what happens next. But the youth is totally mesmerized by Majnu. And what I love about his fascination for Majnu is he's equally fascinated by the lover in Majnu as he is by the poet in Majnu. Usually people would either relate to the lover or to the poet, but this youth is enamored by both because, number one, he relates to the lover side of Majnu. He himself has suffered at the hands of love. And number two, he has appreciation for arts. He is very intellectually evolved. He loves poetry. So again, he relates to the poet a lot, um, as any fan of poetry would, right? Any connoisseur of poetry would. So an interesting character who who sees Majnu in totality, uh, both his aspects. And I like the way Nizami says, when he sees Majnu for the first time, Nizami writes, at last he found Majnu naked from head to foot. Just a shock element in there, right? You have a hero you've been searching for, right? You are a big fan, and then the first time you see them, they are naked head to toe. I love the way the youth has nothing to say to that. He very smoothly gets into his agenda. That thing doesn't shock him. So that madness of Majnu, that possessed Majnu quality, is probably the least of this youth's concern or priority. He doesn't care. He has come here to meet the lover and the poet. If you have heard previous chapters, you know that Majnu by Nizami was said to have three distinct personality aspects: that of a madman, which earned him the name Majnu, that of a poet, and that of a lover. So this youth from Baghdad seemingly is only concerned with the lover and the poet. He's not um, perturbed by the madman aspect of it. So I love the way Nizami highlights that Majnu is naked from head to foot without giving any additional line on how the youth reacts to that. So clearly the youth does not care about that aspect. He just from his first line to Majnu starts requesting him to take him in, asking Majnu to take him in, uh, as a fan, as a pupil, as a um, uh, slave. He says, take me in as a slave, or if nothing else, just take me as another animal that surrounds you. So a powerful chapter, short but very powerful, just showing the youth's enthusiasm. We will see how this enthusiasm pans out over the course of time, but for now, yes, that is one determined visitor that Majnu has had so far, and it's interesting to see him enter the story this late. Well, if you enjoyed the short narration and the brief impression, let us know via your comments and feedback, and we will pick up the story from chapter 48 onwards in the next episode. Now, as always, if you are a new viewer to the podcast, a strong recommendation to go through the episode titled Introduction to DGMZ, simply because it will give you a good insight into the motivation and the inspiration behind this podcast. What are we trying to do here? For your reference, the viewers who don't know, Layla Majnun has a dedicated playlist. You can go to the homepage of the channel. There is a dedicated playlist with all the episodes. Episodes with narration, chapter wise, episodes with paintings, episodes with Sher Shairi dedicated to Layla Majnun. So you can enjoy uninterrupted narration and all the other art forms which we are leveraging to celebrate this beautiful, immortal love story. In addition, we have other playlists dedicated to ghazals and different topics. Surf through them, pick an episode that interests you. If you know someone who would enjoy this content, do share it via your social media, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, um, Facebook. And that is one way you can show appreciation and support for the channel also. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode now. I'm sending a lot of love and light to all you dear viewers, and thanks for watching.